Assalamu alaikum. Due to, a few questions I've been asked and a few messages that I received, I want to kind of clear up a couple of misconceptions about what has been embedded in us to be referred to as the Salaf. Not saying that I disagree with it, but first, I just want to show a couple of hadiths, right? And I'm only going to use Tirmidhi about the Salaf. So I want to, because some things really need to be cleared up, right? Because there's some major misconceptions. So let's start off with this one hadith. I'm going to use Tirmidhi, right? Right? The Arabic is in it also, right? So right here, we're going to start with you see that title up there? What has been said about the third generation? So we're going to touch one hadith. What has been said about the third generation to let you know what type of fiqh you should get from it, right? So this one was narrated by Imran bin Hussein, and then also so that you can see at the bottom right here, this is Sahih. This is Sahih, right? Now look at this. Just to show you, let's just do the narrations. Imran bin Hussein narrated that the Messenger of Allah, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, said, "The best people are my generation, then those who follow them, then after them," listen to this, "my generation, then those who follow them, then after them will come, after them a people will come who increase in fatness, loving fatness, giving testimony before they are asked for it." So this hadith is saying, and look, I'm going to set that up there where people can see it. Hopefully it isn't backwards. So give enough time for people to be able to see it. Pause and take a look at it. Hadith, Sahih Hadith, is saying that the first two generations is the best generation of Muslims. And then the third generation will be a generation where people gonna start getting fat and they're gonna love being fat, right? And then they're gonna give testimony before they are asked for it. A sophisticated way of they're gonna tell on themselves. Like you might not even know that you done caught them in something, but they're gonna come tell on themselves accidentally. All you have to do is listen to them. So, one, Sahih Hadith is referring to the best two generations. But keep what it says. The best people are my generation. It didn't say that these generations is going to be flawless. It didn't say that every last person in this generation and the second generation, everything that they say out of their mouth is totally flawless and perfect. Every opinion that they have that's different doesn't mean that they don't all have a different opinion about every aspect in this religion. It doesn't mean that certain people from this generation isn't going to be on any type of innovative issues or anything. You just want to be able to find some of the best Muslims with the best understanding. Keep in mind, from amongst his generations, in his generation, keep in mind, the first hijrah was to Africa. So you had a whole group of Muslims that was in Africa. You had different people spread out. They did things differently. They didn't all have the exact same understanding. But keep in mind, this is a Sahih Hadith saying the first two generations. Right? Let's clear up some misconceptions real quick. Now, we're going to turn through and go to, and unfortunately, a lot of people never even heard this because they don't read for themselves. and they listen to what people be telling them that they may have possibly heard from somebody else, right? Or they may be speaking from what is a popular opinion. This is a Sahih Hadith. Now, we're going to turn to the next one. Let me show this one. Also in Tirmidhi, right? Also Sahih, right? So let me read this one for y'all, right? Among the chapter heading, so you can get some fiqh from it. Among that, lying will spread until a man will testify with his testimony. You're gonna catch him in a lie. He's gonna start to tell on himself, like we had already explained. But anyway, for the sake of time. So among that, lying will spread until a man will testify while his testimony was not requested, and a man will take an oath while his oath was not sought. So, narrated by Imran bin Hussein. So again, once again, y'all can see that the Arabic is in there. Let me try to get that clear for those who can read the Arabic. Or this is in Tirmidhi. That's hadith number 2302. If anybody want to go look at the Arabic for themselves. The other one was hadith number 2221, which would also follow up with another hadith on the matter in 2222. There's also some commentary on the some taqreeds on it. So if anybody want to go look at them themselves and look at the Arabic. So this one, Imran bin Hussein narrated that the Messenger of Allah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, the best of people of my generation, then those who follow them, then those who follow them, then those who follow them. The first 4 generations of Muslims. And then it says, and he said that 3 times. Right? He said that 3 times. So you know when it's saying that he said something 3 times, then he was firm on that. He reiterating, I want y'all to get it and I want y'all to understand the best people are going to be in the first 4 generations of Muslims. Right? Then after them, people will come who increase in fatness. And they love being fat and giving testimony before they are asked for it. They basically gonna be lying, trying to sell you some nonsense, like try to get you to buy into their story. So the reason why I'm pointing this out, because there isn't even a 100% firm 1000% understanding. I mean, you can have ijma, but every last person don't even agree on exactly what generations it is. Even in hadiths, both of these in Tirmidhi. When you go to start to look in Bukhari, it'll sit down and say that when it's referring, he said that my generation is the best, and I can't remember if he said 2 generations after that or 3. So even in that is letting you know that it's a possibility that it's 3 generations or 4. You got sound hadith that's saying it's the first 2 generations. Right? But these hadiths are not saying. So what I want to clear up is the misconception that no bid'ah existed amongst that time. That every last person had the exact same understanding of everything in Islam at that time. Point taken. After the Rasulullah Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam passed away, what happened? Abu Bakr, may Allah be pleased with him, had to go to war with the Muslims because they considered themselves Muslims, but they started to apostate. Umar kind of differed with him when he decided to go to war with them, and said one of the things that they did was they chose to not pay zakat properly. Right? They chose, we're not going to pay zakat this way. The Rasul not here anymore. Some of them said, the Rasul gone, so Islam is gone too. So Abu Bakr said, by Allah, I'm going to fight them if they give me 1 penny less than what they gave Rasulullah for zakat. And some things definitely transpired to get him right. So at that particular time, Umar, may Allah be pleased with him, kind of differed with him at first. Then he gave him the fiqh. Ain't this a pillar? Ain't this one of the foundations of Islam? Because he considered them to be apostates for not paying zakat properly. So they came together on that, and Umar rolled out with him. But the point is, those individuals who started to do what they did, and it wasn't only with zakat, it was some other things. And then more hypocrites started to be exposed. Right? So, the thing is this. They got it together, right? But he had to get busy with them. And then, of course, some hypocrites still hid their beliefs. The point is, at that particular moment, you ain't even got to go past the Sahaba. They all didn't have the exact same understanding on a lot of things. If you go to Tafsir Qurtubi, you will see that they all didn't have the exact same understanding in the Quran. The ayats, like a lot of people don't know, Yasin is one of them. Where they start off with the Alif Lam Mim, Taha, Alif Lam Ra, Yasin. Some of them said that those at the beginning of the chapters is the name of the chapter. You had some companions who said that Alif Lam Mim meant stuff like I, Allah, am the best knower, or Allah is the best knower. Allah is, but they put different names on it. They gave meanings to them. This was some of the companions. I can get Tafsir Qurtubi up off the shelf and come read it to you. But time constraints. I'm getting ready to go to work. But the point is, they all didn't even have the same opinion on those things in the Quran, the book of Allah. We still talking about in the first generation. Then with the Sahaba, they don't even agree on exactly what makes a person a salaf. Some go by a timeline because it's generations. The hadiths refer to generations. Some people went and said to them, a generation means only people, the first generation is only people who was considered to be a companion to the Rasul. Then they argue over what makes they differ over what actually makes you a companion. Did you meet him? Did you only meet him? Or did you learn from him directly? Did you see him only one time? Or did you hang out with him every day? They differ over, you could have came and learned one hadith from him and one surah, but y'all didn't hang out every day. Some people might consider you not to be a companion. So they don't even have the same agreement on what exactly makes you a companion. So some say the generations is the companions, and then people who learned from the companions, and then the ones who learned from the companions. But some of them even add in that you had to at least had met a companion. So this is their way of excluding, because a generation is all of the Muslims. This is, when you look at the hadith, it's referring to all of the Muslims. Whether you was in Africa, whether you was in Syria, but they differ on this. So there isn't even affirm. Now there may be consensus with one group, and then there may be consensus with a whole another entire group. Consensus with this group is we feel like it's a timeline. Now what you have to understand is if a companion lived to be 90 years old, right? He became Muslim when he was like 7. Then he lived to be 90 years old. He's still from the first generation. So by some people's definition of a generation, he could have still been alive by the 3rd generation. If you're not going by timeline, because he lived to be 90 years old. Then he taught. Then the people who learned from him, when they was like 5 and 7, they lived to be 90 years old. So right now, you have 180 year time span from a companion to one who learned directly from a companion. So you could put in, this is a 180 year gap. And then somebody else who learned from him lived another 90 years. So you had these, but the point being is, they didn't all understand everything the exact same way. It was Muslim, it's a hadith. Well, it's a hathar, where a particular brother, and I'm paraphrasing it, a particular brother said he was in the masjid while people was waiting for salat, and he saw them spread out in the masjid in different circles, and around these circles they all had pebbles, and then inside the circle or standing outside the circle, depending on some translations, some say in the circle was a person, some says while they were sitting, one was standing outside the circle, but every circle had one caller. And then that one individual would say Allahu Akbar. And then they would all say in unison, Allahu Akbar. Then he'd keep doing it, Allahu Akbar. Then they'd repeat after him, and they'd do it 100 times. But this is each individual group, and they all had an individual caller telling them what to do. So when he comes in and see this companion, Sahabi, this shortly after the passing of the Rasul. So he goes to another one of the companions, if I'm not mistaken, Ibn Maksud. I have to get the book out and bust it down, but if I'm not mistaken, it was Ibn Maksud. I think Abu Musa was also there. And so what he says to him was, I seen something in the masjid. I seen the people in the masjid doing something that was detestable, but to me it looked like it was nothing but good. Like, I can't tell if they was right or wrong. So he was like, what did you say to him? He said, I didn't say nothing because I wanted to come talk to you and get your opinion. So when they came, so he walked to the masjid with him, and the people were still doing it. So when he went in there and looked at it, Ibn Maksud, if I'm not mistaken, don't quote me on it, anybody go look at the hadith and read it for yourself. Ibn Maksud said, the Rasul, his clothes ain't even worn out. His utensils ain't even broken. Like, he ain't even been passed away that long. And here y'all are already bringing something into the religion. It would have been better for y'all to be sitting there counting all your sins. But one of the beauty of this narration is, when it gets to the end, the narrator stated that, and after some time passed, he saw some of the individuals who created them circles fighting against them, because the Muslims, you had what they referred to as the Khawarij, different groups breaking out, the Shiites and this and that. So the Muslims started going to war with each other. And he said, I saw them same ones who started these whatever you want to call them, dhikr circles or whatever. They was going against us in war, trying to fight and kill us. And I saw some of them get killed in those wars. dying out of the fold of Islam. Not saying they wasn't Muslim, but you done did enough stuff to where your Islam can be negated. You have nullifiers of Islam. This was with Sahaba. So you telling me that all of them went to war, they broke out in wars, but because they all had the exact same understanding of Quran and Sunnah? No. You had Muslims who brought up charges supposedly that they felt like was just and killed the Khalifa and Uthman. Not only that, they didn't even show that man mercy to where they tried to starve him out with food and stuff, food and water and stuff couldn't even be brought to that man's house. Anybody who was trying to bring him some food or some water, they was getting down. They tried to starve the man to death. Muslims. What understanding of the Quran and Sunnah did they have? And then eventually climbed the wall, went in there, mutilated him, chopped him up so bad with swords while he was reading Quran al-Karim, Quran al-Mubin. Even to the point where his wife tried to interject and they cut her hand off, or I've seen different things where the whole hand was cut off, and then I've seen different things where it was saying it was from like here, half the hand, the fingers basically. They cut her hand off. What, you think they had the exact understanding of Quran and Sunnah? And they did that to him? And then after they did that, they drug him outside and dragged him down the street for everybody to see his mutilated body. Muslims. To the point where Aisha had to step in and say, if y'all don't stop what y'all doing, I'm going to take all my clothes off right here in the middle of the street. And they stopped because they feared if she did that, Allah was going to end everything. You had Muslims who brutally murdered Ali. May Allah be pleased with him and Uthman. That brutally murdered Ali. You had Muawiyah. Him and Ali went to war against each other. You think that everybody had the exact same understanding of Islam on every single aspect? So the point is, a blank statement of I follow Islam, the Quran and the Sunnah, with the understanding that the best 3 generations had, when there's hadiths that Sahih that say it's 2. It's the first 2. Then there's sound hadiths that say it's the first 4. Now I know why the first 3 is the most popular opinion, right? I know why some people consider it to be the most soundest. I know why. But the thing is, how do you do that? They all don't have the exact same understanding. Now that's where ijma comes into play. And this is what individuals is lacking. So what also where the lacking is, you have individuals that think that any statement that was made in those first 3 generations that they want to approve of, because the statement was made in the first 3 generations, then it's valid because it was said during the first 3 generations. And that's not a fact. You had a lot of things. That was said during the first 3 generations. We talking about a lot of Muslims. We talking about a lot of Muslims. You come and look at somebody like Imam Ahmed and them, who traveled, and certain individuals, Shafi and them, they done met 2,000, 3,000 scholars that was sound. Thousands of scholars. This don't even include the Muslims. We talking about thousands. And they hadn't even went to as far as Africa. We talking about thousands upon thousands of Muslims And they all didn't have the exact same understanding of everything. So for you to sit down and say, and then try to hold this thing on, well, I follow Quran and Sunnah with the understanding of the Salaf. What's the understanding that they had? What's the understanding that they had? If you don't know, then you need to go learn it. Now, I'm not saying that these aren't the best generations. I understand that. I agree with that. But I also know that that doesn't mean that every single opinion, everything that was said, just because it was in the first 2, the first 3, or the first 4 generations, just because it was said during that time, that it ain't possibly a bid'ah, that it ain't possibly some deviation. Because I know of a lot of deviated things that was said during those generations. All you have to do is go look. I got different books on the fiqh of the Salaf, and you can sit down and see certain things that they differed about in detail. Companions. So I'm even giving examples. We ain't even got to go to the first 2 and 3. As for those who say the first generation is only a Sahaba. So as I started this off, I talked about situations that happened with only Sahabas. We ain't even got to leave the first generation. Abu Bakr had to go to war with some Muslims right after the passing of the Rasul. Right? Was it because they all had the exact same understanding? No. Muslims killed Uthman. Muslims killed Ali. These are Sahabas. Muawiyah went to war with Ali. And then even one of the most tragic things, Aisha, may Allah be pleased with her, may Allah be pleased with all of them, even gathered up an army and her and Ali went to war. But alhamdulillah, it got resolved. One of them backed down. These is all Sahaba. Do you think this was because they all had the exact understanding of Quran and Sunnah? Obviously they had to have some differences, or they wouldn't have got the bumping. So the problem with this blanket statement is people using this blanket statement, not just people who call themselves Salafis. Right now you had an Ash'ari saying, according to y'all definition, we the real Salafis because we take our understanding from Imam Malik, who was from the Salaf. At least they can tie themselves to one person, and they asking some of these Salafi cats, give us a isnad all the way up to the Rasul for your understanding. And I have yet to see one of them that could do it. But now they even getting to the point where they starting to say, like, you have Salafis talking about they don't take from innovators, they don't do this and that, but they teach books from Imam Nawawi. Imam Nawawi was an Ash'ari. Bayhaqi, he was an Ash'ari. I'm not taking away from them brothers, but how do you not take from what you call to be an innovator, but you teach from 40 hadith for Nawawi, who was an Ash'ari? Don't that make him an innovator? So, like, even with them sitting down saying, you can't even go through the isnads that's in Bukhari without Ash'aris being in it, in the isnad. But like but the one thing that they had to also concede to is this: you also can't get that you can't get that isnad without non-Ash'aris in it. So the vague understanding of really being able to put this into practice and taking it from just being a beautiful saying, I follow Islam with the understanding of the Salaf as-Salih, but you somewhere getting high. You somewhere, is that from the understanding? You somewhere in a mutah type marriage. Is that they understanding? Some of the stuff you can't even link that you say, this Oh, you can't attend a masjid unless they call it a Salafi masjid. What person from the Salaf understood Islam that way? And this right here. And I'm saying I agree with the categories of Tawheed because I know the Dalil and I know where you can see it in the Quran. It wasn't placed in that. But you had some of the scholars from the past like Ibn Taymiyyah, his student Ibn Qayyim, they said that the categories of Tawheed was 2. Right? Then you had some who say the categories of Tawheed was 3. Who from the Salaf, the Sahaba, however you want to cloak under the Salaf, which name one of them that had the understanding that Tawheed was in 3 categories, the way that you understand it? See, because your understanding might not be the understanding that they have, but because you call yourself a particular something and it's been cloaked with a blanket statement, doesn't mean that's what it is in reality. You're calling yourself something. Now, I do know some rulings where individuals said the main reason why one should call themselves Salafi is to make sure you separate yourself from Sunnis, because some of these Sunnis, they say they on a Sunnah, but they be on a Bid'ah. But it's the same way. You call yourself a Sunni Muslim, but you don't even fool with hadiths. Oh, I follow the Sunnah of the Prophet. What Sunnah is you following? This is something that you just calling yourself because you want to be identified with something that you feel makes you more righteous than any other group of Muslim. It all got to be about what you actually up on, not what you call yourself. And that's the point of this video. And to clear up the misconception, just because something was said in the first generation, the second generation, or the third generation, or the fourth, according to other sound hadiths, doesn't mean that every single statement that came up out of there was the haqq. You had a lot of groups that come from up out of there. You got the Mu'tazila, you got the Jahmiyyah, you got the Rafida, you got the Khawarij. You got people who got all type of different beliefs. You got Shiites who done put Ali name on the Shahada. You had individuals that didn't agree with him not becoming the next Khalifa and different things like that. When do you think all this happened? And then another group turn around and go to war with Ali? They all didn't have the exact same understanding. So how on earth is you on the understanding? How the heck do you understand Quran and Sunnah with the understanding that the first 3 generations of Muslim had? What book did you read to get the understanding? A group of people told you this what the understanding is? Question that. And then tell you need to be careful who you take knowledge from. Okay, alhamdulillah. Not saying it ain't 3 categories of Tawheed, or that Tawheed can't be put in 3 categories, because it's been put in 2, it's been put in 3, and it's been put in 4. But you don't know that because you don't study. You just a blind follower of some people who telling you anything. Ask them, who from the Salaf, who was the first person from the first 3 generations to ever say Tawheed is these 3 categories? Who was the first to say? Just like when you go look at the narrations of hadith where people test people with the categories of Aqidah or articles of faith. You have hadith that lists 5. You have hadith that lists 6. And you have hadiths in Sahih, and you don't even got to leave Bukhari and Muslim. For these hadith, you can find 5, 6, and 7 in the list of the categories of what they call Aqidah, and they all don't even list the exact same things. But everything that's in them, you have to believe in. Then you could go to Quran al-Kareem. Quran al-Kareem also has a list. But who was from the Salaf? Being that your understanding only comes from the Salaf, What person? Just name one person from the Salaf that had that understanding that you have, being that you understand Islam and you practice Islam and Quran and Sunnah with the understanding of the first 3 generations, when they all had a lot of different understandings. That's when you have to start to learn and understand what ijma is. So I just wanted to clear up that misconception, man, because just because a group of individuals from the 3rd generation said, in their opinion, to say that the Quran is the speech of Allah, that means Allah has speech, right? We deny that. So therefore, that means that the Quran is created. They're not talking about the book, the Mus'haf, which has the Quran, the recitation written on pages. Now I can understand if somebody want to say that book was, you want to call that a creation, where they wrote the qira'ats, the recitation on paper, but they talking about the physical recitation. That's a creation from Allah, because Allah can't speak. Allah can't make words. You understand? So Allah never went. Allah's messenger, sallallahu alaihi wasallam, never went to Jannah and had a conversation with Allah to the point where we pray 5 times a day, where it started off with 50. That is totally impossible that happened, because Allah doesn't have speech. So they came with the term, the Quran is created. It's not the speech of Allah. And then some took that and said, well, at the very best, it's the speech of Jibreel. Because Jibreel is the one, anybody who know and look at the thing, the Rasul, the angel Jibreel would recite it to the Rasul, and then the Rasul would repeat after him. So they cloak it under, it's the speech of Jibreel. These things come from within those generations. There's a lot of things that came from within those generations. So the ones who believe that, they feel like, hey, it was said in the first 3 generations, so therefore, that's a valid opinion to have. That's a valid opinion of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah. Okay? But in order for it to be part of Ahlus Sunnah wal Jama'ah, the group of people that's on the Sunnah, when you have to be able to find it in the Sunnah first. But if that's your opinion that you want to go with, but just because it was said in the first 3 generations isn't dalil, that is haq. It isn't dalil, that is haq. So I just wanted to clear up that misconception, man. I gotta pray and then go to work, man. But and again, I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm not trying to cause an argument or a debate. I'm not even trying to be a fitna. I just want to clear up the misconceptions that everything that was said, or things that people believe because it was said by somebody in the first 3 generations, in the first generation, just like what I was talking about with the Sahaba, where these things came about as dhikr circles. Certain peoples from Sufis, Maturidis, Asharis, they come off and say that is hadith for proof that you can have these dhikr circles like this. Even if those dhikr circles evolve all the way up to the point where one person is in a circle bouncing up and down like this till the energy get around, and then all y'all bouncing around them in a circle talking about you getting closer to Allah. What they say is Ibn Maksud didn't say it's not permissible for y'all to do this. All he said was what would be better, and different arguments that I've heard from their side. But they use the exact same hadith. Hey, this was from some of the Sahaba that was doing this in the masjid. They were Sahabas. They were Sahabas. So if they was doing it in the masjid, they definitely knew better. So that's proof for them to have these thicker circles that done evolved all the way up to people spinning in circles and bouncing around in masjids and stuff. They took their understanding from what? What people refer to as the Salaf. It was Sahabas. Right? Or it was at least, at the very least, it was people who met and learned from Sahabas, because it was some of the Rasul direct companions that came and said, man, what y'all got going on in here, man? What is this? The Rasul ain't even been passed away that long. What is this y'all doing, man? So they used it. So other groups is using the best three, and all the hadith say is this is the best generation. It didn't say it's flawless. It didn't say there won't be any differences. It didn't say everything is understood exactly the same by every last person. And then there's areas of fiqh where differencing is okay. And then there's certain things that it isn't. People may say, oh, the Salaf never differed in Aqidah. They did differ in Aqidah. If you got one group saying that the Quran is created and it's not the speech of Allah, that's a difference of opinion in the first three generations. Now people could say, no, they didn't disagree on that you have to believe in Allah, right? That you have to believe in his books, but some of the things that come with the books, they don't got the correct beliefs about it. Some of the things that come with the prophet, they don't have the correct beliefs about it. Some of the things that come with the angels, but they believe they exist. They believe the prophets exist. They believe that the books exist. But some of the beliefs that they have about them, it's not correct. You have certain groups. We can even go into the Qadr, where you got the groups called the Qadriya. You have individuals, they have differences of opinion on what the Qadr actually is. Man, let me go ahead and do what I got to do so I can get up out of here, man. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Anything I said that was incorrect came from myself and the shaitan, and anything that I said that was correct came from Allah Azza wa Jalla. And again, I'm not trying to offend anybody. I'm not trying to raise myself above anybody. I just want to clear up the misconception that just because an opinion or a statement came from the first generation, second generation, third generation, or fourth generation of Muslims, whatever you agree on it is, that don't make that statement sound. If it didn't come from Quran al-Kareem and it didn't come from Rasulullah and he didn't teach it, now on some fiqh issues, that's a different thing. But some of these matters is Aqidah issues. So again, not trying to offend anybody, I just wanted to clear up that misconception. And then just to sit down and say, whether you a Salafi or the Asharis or the Mutradis saying, hey, we the real Ahl Sunnah wal Jama'ah, we the real Salaf, y'all not the Salaf, we on the fiqh of this and that, and all these differences, and trying to claim the first three generations, just because what you believe came from somebody that was in that generation, don't mean that it belongs in Islam automatically. It doesn't. And this just goes to show some of these groups who still exist. And like they say, the Salafi started with Abdul Wahhab and you a Wahhabi. All that don't even matter. Let's just go down and forget what you call yourself. Show that your understanding came from somebody from that generation, which unfortunately, the Asharis and the Maturidides and all them, they able to show that their understanding came from one of those people up out of there. That's the crazy part. But do that mean I had to agree with it? La. Did the Rasul say it was the first three generations, the first two or the first four was flawless? That there won't be any bid'ah? You can go to the hadith with a Rasul where people gonna come when after it's all over and done with, And then people gonna walk into the Jannah in the area where the prophet is. And then all of a sudden they gonna start to get dragged away. And the Rasul gonna say, whoa. I'm paraphrasing. Astaghfirullah, I'm not trying to be disrespecting the Rasul, but the Rasul is, because I know how some people would take it, because they might be mad at what I'm talking about. The Rasul said, hey, that was one of my companions. He was a good person. What he being dragged to the hellfire for? And he gonna be told, because you don't know what they introduced into the religion after you was gone. What do that tell you? Some of the people who he sat with that he knew to be good people introduced some things into the religion that ain't supposed to be here. What generation they from? The first. Assalamu alaikum rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.